Puh,
All right. Blah.
puh. Welcome to Oral Hygiene. This is a podcast where we talk about experimental films, educational films, and weird documentaries. This is Matt. Mark Malek is here today. Hello, Mark.
Hello.
I didn't have you do anything cheeky that time. Oh well, as this is take
Start
two.
over.
Start over with Mark, the Malek person. Okay.
But I mean, isn't the film today sort of about starting over?
I don't know. Starting over with your home computer.
Starting over with the IBM PS1.
Oh, right. There we go. Everyone loves a PS1. Yeah, today's film, TV show, whatever, it's the Computer Chronicles, which is, I don't know, a local TV show or something.
I thought you knew. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. Well, now it's on YouTube. There's like 30 episodes up on YouTube, but I don't know, 1990 seemed like the sweet spot. So we're talking about home PCs in 1990.
So
What did you
I
watch?
I don't know I don't know where to insert this in the story, but in around 1990 I built my own PC when I was 12 years old. This was a huge mistake
Why is
because
that?
my parents allowed me to basically just take whatever savings I had and buy all these parts, which I think the computer ended up being about $700 or $800 in that money. And I basically just wanted to play arcade game ports, which did all exist, but were all terrible.
Oh well. Yeah, 1990. That's pretty rough. You should have watched this episode on how to get your own home PC.
Well, there's no way I could have justified spending $1,000. I know I didn't have $1,000, and
Right,
even if
right.
I did, that would have been. But I did. The basic benefit of that is that if it ever came up, some kid in school would be like, "Whoa, you're a genius," and I'd just be like, "Yeah, whatever. It wasn't that hard, really."
No, they'd be like, "Oh, you built your own computer. What about a robot?"
No, no one ever hit me with that, but I wish they had. But the robot does kind of come in at the end, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, can you give us like the 4 or 5 sentence rundown of this thing?
There are so many computers you can buy in 1990. Here are several computers and what they can do. Several hunched over nerds are here to tell you.
Right. They get into the start of this. Oh, those home computers were like a passing fad, but they're coming back, right? So I thought that was kind of weird. I guess 1990 was like a low point for PCs or something. Like Mario had, given them the rear trowel back in 1985 or something.
Well, it's interesting. I think the PC market had just a lot of false starts where as soon as the home computer existed in like the late 70s, it was like, oh, you'll be able to do all this stuff with it, buy it. And then that just kept coming back periodically.
I-
I had a before I built my own computer in the 80s, I had a Radio Shack Color Computer 3, which was
Color.
color. It had some colors. The screen was green. I remember the screen was just green with black text. That was like all of the typing you would do. And it ran into a TV. You didn't have to have a monitor for it.
Yeah, I think first there was some Texas Instruments thing around the house, which was complete crap. Um, well, at least
Didn't
it
you have
was.
an Atari?
Yeah, we had an Atari 800 XL also that you would connect to the television.
Yeah, I
I,
remember us busting that out in maybe the 90s, like
yeah,
out of the attic.
that thing survived all the way into the mid 2000s.
I figure that if I'd kept the color computer, it would have survived. The one I built didn't. One day it just didn't turn on, and I threw it in
They're
the
built to
trash.
last, but I guess 1990 PCs were in a specific like geek zone a bit. I mean, if you're cool,
Hmm.
at least from the elementary school point of view, if you're cool, you had like an NES or a Genesis, right? Or was it still
Well,
Master System at that
yes.
time?
I mean, there were PC games that were specifically PC games, but I think a lot of those were things like Space Quest.
Yeah,
That might not
those
even
are
have been a
fun.
thing. I think
I like
Sierra.
space.
Yeah, they've influenced a lot of games that people I think are really into now, which have some quality of life improvements.
No, I remember rocking into the fourth grade with the Roger Rabbit PC game and laying down the school computers.
I remember, what was it, Thexter, where you're like a robot that would turn into a spaceship. That was just amazing because you could you're basically a transformer.
Yeah. Well, this one has a Bix for you, right?
A Bix.
Bix will come after you if you copy software. It's have one
Yeah,
of those
that is true.
crazy logos near the beginning. What else? Oh, the low cost Apple computers. That was pretty funny. I guess Seinfeld had one of
Oh.
those.
Did you look up what the currency conversion was?
No.
Basically double. So
Okay.
everything that was $1,000 computer was about 2,000 in today's money,
Is
which
that
is
how much a MacBook costs?
unbelievable. I think if you bought like a super fancy, nice MacBook, you could spend $2,000,
Right.
but it's not necessary.
This show really wants you to buy that PS1 not made by Sony.
We have such different problems now. It's like what the computers do and what they're supposed to do feels kind of like a primitive. There are several, if it felt like there were several primitive versions of Windows, even though Windows was not ever once displayed this entire program, which is interesting.
They definitely showed us some primitive versions.
But the thing is, Windows existed, and
Yeah. I was thinking like, wasn't Windows 3 like running at this point?
that it was on the chart of top 10 best-selling computer programs at the end
Man,
during
that
the
chart was
report.
so lame. Like even now, like as I'm just like, that's the most boring ass top 10 ever.
But that's the side effect of computers being for sort of geeks is like extended memory manager is one of the best selling programs.
Yeah.
They're
No cyberpunk. They did bring up Mean Streets, which I haven't
yeah,
played. I haven't played Cyberpunk 2077 or really even seen it. So anytime I hear someone mention that game, I just get images of Mean Streets in my head.
but there's absolutely that type of game's DNA just got passed down because a lot of people who were making that type of game at that point just went on to do things like found studios.
Right, but when I hear people talking about like coworkers or whatever, I and they're talking about playing the game, like in my head, I see them playing it in like the Mean Streets setting, like with those graphics and all that.
Well, there are a couple of games that have come out recently that are indie games that are more like that are cyberpunk sort of top down. I'm a robot in a bar and I have dialogue options, which
Yeah,
is great. Those games are a lot of fun. And the thing is, if you don't record $100 million of worth of voice acting, then you're actually more free to do different dialogue options.
One other wild thing in this movie is them like talking up a Commodore 64 so much in 1990.
They said good old Commodore 64 at least 5 times in that segment.
Yeah,
That was really funny.
but they're like, oh, well, it's kind of primitive now, but there's still like the best computer out there. I
But
guess people. I do
sorry, go
remember
ahead.
people using those kind of pretty far past its sell through date though.
Yeah, I think expiration dates just sort of lingered a little more because the last Atari 2600 game I think was in the mid 90s, things like that.
Isn't a Commodore 64 pretty big for like chip tune sort of people?
Yeah, the SID chip, their entire synthesizers based on the chip from the SID as in CID.
Yeah, I remember that being basically the lasting probably into the 90s, but just for musical uses for electronic music producers.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's definitely still a thing now, and so is the there is $1,000 synthesizer you can buy based on the Sega Genesis sound chip.
wouldn't it be cheaper to
Is
get a Genesis? I
well, you
guess you
don't
couldn't
have
play
all
it.
the
Yeah.
you can run programs through it, but not on that level, not with all the knobs right in front of you.
um, we were talking about you mentioned, you alluded to the cavalcade of geeks in this one.
Mhm.
The other thing I liked was how the hosts also extremely geeky they kept seeming to like be really impatient for their guests. Like, okay, finish up, we gotta get to commercial, god damn it, shut up. Like
there were there were a couple of questions that I feel like it was interestingly went unanswered or answered in a particularly ungraceful way, like the one time when the I think the Magnavox computer where it said, well, it comes preloaded with these 12 pieces of software, and then he starts talking about it and the guy cuts him off. He's like, are these preloaded? And he says, no, they're not. And then he keeps going. It was just a weird way to handle that.
Yeah, there's a kind of a fun lack of basic social television skills, I guess.
Except for the Apple representative Karen, who was just basically there to kill it.
Oh, Karen's a Karen, right? Dark
She's
Ages Apple
intense.
style shit. Yeah.
She came to sell you a $3,700 Macintosh, which, to be fair, those were the absolutely the only ones that looked modern. But they did. I was like, this looks like it would be completely usable.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
yeah. I was just looking here. They did not ask Karen to shut the fuck up. Oh, they finally did. Yeah, they do in the end. They even tell her to shut the fuck up in the end.
yeah, it takes a little while, but they I think it was part of that the guy interviewing her just really wanted those computers.
Yeah.
It wasn't even, yeah, it was the whatever the nerd version of the patronizing male thing.
that
He
that
had his male gaze fixated on the Macintoshes.
right. Okay, there you go. I was going to say that sentence seems to be sputtering a bit.
It was. I was trying to phrase it being without doing any kind of justification of that behavior.
Okay. Well, I yeah. I also thought it was weird. Like you have these hosts, and then they pass the segment to the tech lady, right? And then
Mhm.
the whole thing ends. There's like no framing at the end.
No, it's here's a computer, there's a computer, there's a computer, there's a computer, it's over.
Yeah, I guess
It
it's sort of
was
like watching a Tim and Eric sketch, except there's no real jokes.
well, yeah, that's a lot of what Tim and Eric is based on. Is it's not exactly public access, but I mean, what is public access but just public television that someone else made?
Yeah, I guess this would be like prime time frontline public access maybe. But yeah, I think it had some actual TV stations letters affixed to the beginning or whatever, if I remember correctly.
Well, maybe someone is probably screaming at this podcast like the one person. It's like, it's WQXB.
Yeah. What are you doing your research, bastards?
You'll get like an email from one person,
Right.
3 emails.
Some of the archaic programs here, I'm like, so I still use Paint, but that's because I'm an idiot. So
I mean, why not use Paint? Unless you're going to pirate software, then just go ahead and use Paint.
yeah. I had a tinge of nostalgia when they brought up like Microsoft Works. I always liked
Yeah.
Works better than Word.
Well, now, as I was saying, we have different problems now, like the idea of a package of Microsoft software. It doesn't come with the computer, and it's like, hey, why don't you install this in your computer, install this. It's like bothering you to install it and then bothers you for money.
I've only got a 20 megabyte hard drive, people.
Subscription stuff has just turned into this ultimate scam.
Yeah.
I guess it's not a scam, but it's just a way to make things infinitely more expensive.
Well, they had the subscription Prodigy service here, and they made a pretty big deal about, oh, this computer's ready to hook up to Prodigy.
Yep, 2400 baud, which is 5% of the speed of what you consider dial-up internet.
Did you use
amazing.
Prodigy? Were you a Prodigy user? I was a Prodigy user.
I had a modem for my my color computer, and I don't remember what I mostly just went onto BBS's.
Okay.
Probably used Prodigy at some point. Did you have to pay for it? I don't remember.
Yeah, my parents paid for it. Like I said,
Yeah, no,
it was
I wouldn't.
you
There's no
mentioned
way
you mentioned subscription, so I was like, oh, well, there we had that subscription because that was before AOL, because AOL was like what CD-ROM era more, right?
It makes sense to have a subscription to go on to the whatever you'd call it, internet, something online. Go online.
I teach kids, so if it ever comes up and I need to like explain Prodigy to them, I'm like, well, it's like Yahoo, but you can only do things on Yahoo. You can't go anywhere else on the internet.
Yeah. Did you ever play any BBS specific games?
I wasn't so much on the boards. Again, I think I was on a Prodigy board a little bit because I remember trying to like make a comic book by people mailing shit around, and I was like, I'll do the art, and I turned out I was terrible at it.
Yeah, I definitely remember playing some text-based multiplayer games where I think it was just I want to say there was one where you were flying through space and selling things, and then there was one where you're just selling drugs, and they might have been the same game. You might have been selling drugs in space. I
That's
don't
cool.
remember.
Space drugs, spice.
Of course, yeah, spice trafficker
Yeah.
should be a thing if it isn't.
Well, yeah, that's a Dune thing, right?
Yeah, I
They
mean,
got
but
the
it should
spice.
be a video. It should be a video game
Oh,
if it
right.
isn't.
I mean, let's face it, that's what Han Solo really is, right?
Pretty much.
They putting spice in those compartments most of the time.
Hey man, when Disney buys Dune in 2023,
Who's making this year's Dune? This being
uh,
2021.
I know Denis Villeneuve is
Ooh, you can
directing
even
it.
say his name. That's cool. I don't know what
Yeah,
studio's doing it. Warner
I
Brothers,
don't
because it was part
know.
of that. We're just gonna crap out all of our movies thing.
Oh,
Like
right.
on.
It's going on to the internet, which I
Yeah,
should
yeah, yeah.
probably
So
just
that.
go ahead and subscribe to, I guess.
So it's Warner Brothers. Okay.
I've been putting it off because I have 4 streaming services, and all I do is watch Deep Space Nine reruns now.
There you go. Yeah, I'll be finishing that up soon. Moving on to Voyager, but
Nice.
I'm just looking. Yeah, I just read half of my notes are just cheap shots at the people in this video, which is kind of unfair. I mean, yeah, okay, they are geeks, and they're also geeks from 1990, so there's like a extra layer you add onto that.
It is. Can we talk about? Okay, the beginning. It's interesting. The beginning. The guy is trying to make the point that you can buy a computer at Sears and you don't have to go downtown to buy one. Isn't that kind of insane?
Yeah,
doesn't that
going.
isn't that feel like the most dated idea in the entire film is that, oh, I don't have to go downtown, I go to Sears.
Well, you can't get off Amazon. You don't have a computer.
I don't know. Well, I don't even remember downtown. I don't remember ever there being a computer store in downtown Atlanta. Ever.
I definitely recognize the computer store in this video. I mean, obviously it's probably not the same one I was in, but it was like a Babbage's or whatever, right? So just
yeah, I certainly went to some of those. There was one in every mall, I guess.
Well, I feel like they were more in strip malls, but I'm sure they're in malls. Yeah, they had some mall ones too. But my strip mall is my specific memory of one of those. So
it was still a few more years before the sort of aftermarket. Aftermarket isn't the right word. The shops that were getting stuff directly from China, like the stuff that you get on Amazon now, that was sort of a thing in the mid 90s. I don't know if you ever went to any of those.
I'm not sure, but I'm just saying I definitely recognize the one in this, and as a probably 11-year-old, like, ooh, thought it was like awesome in there, right?
Well, definitely the Toys R Us looked familiar. That was my family was a little bit behind. I think we got an Atari 2600 in like 1984, 85, which is basically the Nintendo was pretty much imminent. We got a Nintendo in 88. But the thing was, if you go to Toys R Us, you could still buy Atari things that just basically didn't exist because they couldn't sell them anywhere else.
Oh yeah, do it. Go to Toys R Us.
Yeah, they would sell. I can't even remember because before the crash happened, there were all these accessories. Like there were definitely wireless joysticks for the 2600, and I only ever saw those at Toys R Us. And then a trackball, which since the Atari couldn't take analog input, I think the trackball just sent digital signals when you used it.
You're going above my pay grade there.
Okay, so a trackball would work like a mouse, right?
Right.
Just the Atari only took analog input for paddles, which is left right. So you could use a trackball to play something like Centipede, but you would just be like, you hit the trackball and it would just make you go up, like you were pushing the joystick up, which sounds horrible.
Yeah, that doesn't sound so great. But what was? Oh yeah, I was just gonna say we actually still have Toys R Us here. That's another thing that we have legacy in Japan. We still got Tower Records and Toys R Us.
Are the Toys R Us just like aisles of Gundam and waifu pillows?
They generally resemble the American ones, but just with more Ampamon and probably a little Gundam. Yeah.
Okay.
So
man, next time I'm there, you gotta take me to Toys R Us.
Yeah.
if it lasts that long.
Yeah. Well, it's a different corporate structure, I guess. I mean, same thing with Tower. That's why they can like continue to exist in Japan.
Oh, Tower's back, baby.
Not the physical stores.
No, online. It's Tower's back online. I think they're just selling like nostalgia products. So is Radio Shack. Radio Shack is selling Radio Shack shirts, and then you can buy things like cool lamps for 3 times as much as they cost on Amazon.
Yeah, I have noticed recently though the tower in my town in Japan has been scaling. I mean, the store is the same size, but they've kind of been scaling their selection back noticeably. So that's kind of a bummer. But I mean, it's well, what the hell? I don't really buy things there anymore anyway, which is probably why it's being scaled back. Now it's just a giant K-pop section. Like 5 bands takes up half the store.
5 bands made up of a cumulative 250 teenagers.
Right. So
it's really weird to me that like collecting is a huge part of Japanese culture since your space is limited no matter who you are there for the most
yeah,
part.
that's weird. Well, I guess they collect small things for the most part.
That makes sense.
Yeah, they're not
Like
collecting cars.
what was it? There was some kind of like one of the train stations I think in Tokyo had like a huge selection of capsule machines that were there to only dispense like modern furniture things for adults that were in little capsules. You know what I'm
That
talking about?
I
Is
don't
that still
remember that
there?
specifically, but yes, you do get that sort of thing. I mean, the mall will have like 200 capsule machines. So
Yeah. I think it was a train station I'd been to before, so I was just like
okay,
I just have to resist taking $300 and buying a bunch of capsules of like modernist furniture little things.
yeah, there's the mall
Oh,
near here. One store vacated, and that space is now just filled with like literally like 200 capsule machines.
I just love that kind of thing. I think it's just from being awkward and not wanting to interact with people that
Yeah,
especially where I don't speak English.
yeah,
It's
I
just
think you definitely jive with the store of the many capsule machines. So
like as a child, I was really hoping that the automat would be real. The promise of the automat would come true, and we'd be like,
isn't it Amazon basically?
yeah, I guess so. You still have to
Yeah.
like go into the if you go to the Amazon locker, you still have to talk to the guy.
Oh,
I guess you
okay.
don't. I guess you don't. The guy says hi to you, but you don't have to. You can just scan the barcode and take the box.
Mm. There we
But
go.
but I'm also much better at talking to people now, but only in English.
Right. Or tongues. You speak to them in tongues. That's kind of cool.
That is a way to be left alone.
Hey, Mark, how are you?
All right, computer. Let's get back to computers. But anyway, the good
I
old
just want to
Commodore
make
64.
noises.
Okay, so yeah, the Macs at the end. Well, okay. The what was interesting is the I thought the crappiest looking interface was probably the IBM.
Yeah, I thought IBM was already like a dirty word in 1990, but
No, no. At that point, PCs were still even called IBM PCs. Like
yeah.
that lasted
Oh, yeah.
until
You get the game, it would be like IBM. You're right. Okay, but I
it
still
still
feel like you
lasted
didn't want to.
till
I feel like people
Windows
didn't.
95 or so.
Yeah, I feel like people didn't want to own the actual IBM machine though.
Some of them were. I had a ThinkPad from the 90s that was really great.
Yeah.
Um, it
That's super
died.
advanced compared to this. Yeah, there
Oh, of
is one of these
course.
shows. I saw there was one of these also on. It was like 1992 for laptops or something. I was like that would also be entertaining. But I wanted to get a little more of a general overview, which is why we're looking at this film.
Yeah, they did drop that little one in at the end in the news where it's like, "Hey, we've found a way to make fold a pro." She literally said to fold the motherboard in half to make it fit, like as if that's what they're doing. But
Yeah.
$3,700, which would be astronomical. That's the price of a car.
Well, yeah. Once she started going, it was definitely going in like one ear and out the other. So, because I mean, I'm not like that game for tech talk, and tech talk from 1990 is like, it's just extra techno babble, right? Because nobody says these things anymore.
I was sort of paying close attention because I'm like, oh, what does the future of 1990 hold?
It's kind of bleak.
Because it's pretty well, it's interesting because we sort of had the future and that everybody was trying to just do a Windows, but Macintosh was doing it better than everyone else. But Windows also wasn't the default. It's just really interesting that
No,
it was not
we
just
had to
considered
enter
automatically.
Windows through MS DOS. That was because you come up, it would just be like the black screen, right, and a prompt, and then you'd go to
Hmm.
Windows. That's weird.
I vaguely remember Windows 1 or 2. But
I don't think I got on board till 3, but yeah, I think Prodigy. I think I was going to Prodigy from an MS DOS prompt. I don't think I was going into it through Windows or anything.
well, I think it was just whoever was making the computers was preloading with their software, which I think
Nothing's preloaded. You have to buy it all separately,
that's right, not pre-installed. No, pre uh,
and you don't
hey,
pirate it, or Bix is coming after you.
where is Bix gonna find? Bix will find you on the dark web.
I just assumed Bix was like the balloon and the prisoner that chases Patrick
Maybe,
McGowan whenever he tries to leave the village. That's Bix.
probably.
That's what Bix is.
It's like, how dare you pirate software and then leave this island?
Yeah. But is
But
there anything else in this movie you really wanted to hit? Like I said, some of it was techno babble for me, but it probably was in 1990 as well. So
well, shout outs to Magnavox for having what looked like the best interface out of the PCs, which is super weird.
yeah, that
The
is kind of
Radio Shack,
sad now.
yeah, yeah, but it looked usable. I don't know. I have to give a shout out to, it's like there are no ads were popping up. It wasn't trying to annoy you to subscribe to anything,
Yay for it. Yeah. But
except for you had to pay like the equivalent of $4,000 for the privilege of using most of it. So what? They don't need any more of your money.
no. I guess the bleak thing here is just you're like they're talking about the future things. You're like, well, even what they want is so far in the past now.
I think it was just sort of depressing that they were so far from getting it to the point where it's useful for most people, but the whole thing was framed as, well, maybe it's going to work this time.
When did computers become useful for your average Joe? What did you say? 98 is about the right number for that?
That's pretty much what I was going to toss out.
Okay,
Was that
so
98 was when I remember that dial-up internet was pretty uh, obtainable for $10 a month, which I think was probably a fair price for it at the time.
yeah, because my dad was like a programmer, right? So obviously
Hmm.
we had the computer stuff coming through a little earlier than most people.
Yeah, I mean, I was just a nerd, but that's uh, the the most futuristic I got was when I lived in that townhouse in 1999, and it was wired for multiple phone lines already. So we were all basically able to have our own phone lines. So I just put my phone line on the internet all day and didn't take any calls.
Well, that was futuristic, right? You had like a stable connection.
Yeah, it was
Speaking
like
of
going.
oh,
Sorry,
oh,
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
I
No,
was like, it was like jumping 3 years into the future.
right. That's still impressive. 3 years. TV shows do that sometimes. I guess 20 years is better for a TV show.
You got to like shoot the moon because you have to build all the props anyway. So
Yeah,
just go
yeah.
ahead and build the teleporter.
Anyway, if people wanted to find you on this thing called the internet, did you get your music cracked up yet? Cranked up?
Stunrunner.bandcamp.com, debut EP Summer of Skulls coming
Ooh.
soon.
Summer is Skulls. Okay. Sounds kind of
Summer of
metal.
Skulls.
Yeah.
It is not.
As for this is Aural Hygiene, which you can find Aural Hygiene Pod for God, I forgot what everything's called, Facebook, Twitter, that sort of thing. Yeah. And then I talk up Sci-Fi films at Matt and Luke Sci-Fi Sanctuary, which is MLSFS Pod. Oh, it came out for once.
Hey,
Okay.
way to go.
And that's also just, search it out, right?
Mm-hmm.
um
Type it
so
into your search bar like no one could do in 1990.
right. Well, actually, that's more how you would do it in 1990. Now people are too lazy to do it, right? Don't be lazy, do it.
There's no searching. You notice
Yeah,
that that's the big omission is their indexing did not exist.
good point. Yeah, so
No
yeah,
searching.
no searching. No, I remember just on last word on Prodigy, I remember like just printing dot matrix, printing out reams of paper and like making my own hard copy of a primordial internet movie database.
Oh wow. I think I used my printer to print out programs to type in or something like that. I did that. I had the subscription to the magazine. It would type in basic programs line by line, and then they
We
wouldn't work, and I would fly into a rage.
we did that for the Atari, but they were probably even
Mm.
simpler. Those came in magazines, but yeah,
Did you end up having to fix typos, check your work, things like that?
I don't remember because this would have been like like 6 or 7 years old when this was going on. So
Hmm.
I
Yeah, I
probably wasn't
just
typing them in myself. I think I did type a few in myself to be honest, but yeah, I think they just. I think I remember having to fix a typo or two somewhere. So, but it's not a fresh memory. So
at the time it was either type it in yourself or spend the $10 for the disc with the programs on it.
there we go. But anyway, as for you, dear user, go compute. I don't know. I don't have anything to say. Say something witty.
Pull the disc out.
Okay.
All right.